everyone. Welcome to the continuous medical education program. It has been started by UN Mehta Institute of Cardiology. I am Dr. Mithilesh Kulkarni, Assistant Professor Cardiology at UN Mehta Institute, which is at Ahmedabad. And today I am going to talk about heart failure and CKD, how to manage. So CKD and heart failure, this is a lethal combo because heart failure is highly prevalent in patients with chronic kidney disease and end-stage renal disease and is strongly associated with mortality in these patients. The coexistence of heart failure and CKD will increase the toxic manifestations of various diagnostic and therapeutic measures. It accelerates the atherosclerosis and increases the risk of death. More than 40% of the patients of heart failure have CKD, and close relationship between CKD and heart failure worsens their prognosis. So as we know, the heart failure and CKD are linked to each other, which has been called the cardiorenal syndrome. The heart failure will worsen the renal failure and the renal failure will worsen the heart failure. Now coming to the cardiorenal syndrome, the cardiac, renal or systemic insults result in the dysfunction of the heart and or kidneys. The cardiorenal connectors mediate the crosstalk between the heart and the kidneys, causing concomitant organ dysfunction. The cardiac dysfunction results in hemodynamic changes, which results in renal dysfunction. The consequences of cardiorenal syndrome include anemia, metabolic abnormalities and volume overload. Now coming to the prevalence of heart failure across the EGFR categories. This is a chart which shows as the EGFR decreases, as we can see in the diagram. In the first chart, it is the EGFR is more than 90, then it is between 60 to 89, then 45 to 59, then 30 to 44 and less than 30. So as we can see, the prevalence of heart failure increases as the EGFR decreases. Now coming to the heart failure with CKD, the consequences when they coexist. All cause and the CVD specific mortality risk increased with increasing multimorbidity. So as we can see, both are interlinked and it increases the morbidity as well as the mortality in long run. Now coming to the cardiovascular disease associated mechanism leading to the progression. In heart failure, there is increased cardiac hypertrophy, increased fibrosis, increased endothelial dysfunction and increased vascular stiffness and calcification, which will ultimately lead to the cardiovascular disease and comorbidities like the atherosclerosis, diabetes mellitus, arterial hypertension, wasting and cachexia. It will also lead to the cardiorenal anemia, which will increase the anemia because of decreased hemoglobin, decreased iron, decreased ferritin and decreased erythropoietin. It also leads to mineral and bone disorder like the hyperphosphatemia, which will lead to decreased serum calcium, decreased renal phosphate excretion, and ultimately there will be decrease in the vitamin D and decreased intestinal absorption. So as we can see, both the kidney and the heart, these are interlinked. So the heart failure will worsen the kidney failure, that is they will go hand in hand and they will both worsen each other. Now coming to the therapeutic strategies in CRS. CRS is cardiorenal syndrome. We can use diuretics, we can use RAS inhibitors like the ACE inhibitors, ARB, ARNI and MRA. MRA is mineralocorticoid receptor antagonist. The renal replacement therapy in the form of hemodialysis, hemofiltration, hemodiafiltration, beta blockers, SGLT2 inhibitors and devices, mainly the CRT, that is cardiac resynchronization therapy, and the MCS, that is the mechanical circulatory support system. Now coming to the AHA scientific statement, the cardiorenal syndrome classification, pathophysiology, diagnosis and treatment strategies, a scientific statement from the American Heart Association. So in this, these are the various treatment modalities which are used. As we have already talked about the CRT, that is the cardiac resynchronization therapy, the ICD, the drugs like the digoxin, the ivabradine, beta blocker, MRA, ARNI, ACE inhibitor or ARB and diuretics. The relative levels of strength of evidence for goal-directed medical therapy in heart failure with reduced ejection fraction across varying stages of non-dialytic chronic kidney disease has been shown in this figure. Now renal based approach to initiation and titrating of multi-level GDMT. GDMT is guideline directed medical therapy. The triple VAMI trial recently published, it has shown that hypotension, hyperkalemia and renal impairment results in treatment dose lowered. Medication discontinued, but they don't tend to do it very well. The renal effects of guideline directed medical therapies in heart failure, a consensus document from the Heart Failure Association of the European Society of Cardiology. This has been shown in the diagram and according to the eGFR levels. Now coming to the neprilysin inhibitors, this is the new era of treatment because not only are they neurohormonal inhibitors, but they also increase the vasoactive peptides. So as we know, because of the AT1 receptor, there is sodium and water retention, there is vasoconstriction which leads to the increase in blood pressure, increased endothelial permeability, increased cardiac hypertrophy, increased fibrosis and increased sympathetic outflow. So how are the ARNI beneficial? That is the angiotensin receptor neprilysin inhibitor ARNI. They are helpful because they will cause the natriuresis by decrease renal, it will decrease the renin secretion, the vasodilation with helps in decrease in the blood pressure and increase in the endothelial permeability. It decreases the hypertrophy, it decreases the fibrosis and it decreases the sympathetic outflow. So this is the main pathway through which the ARNI is beneficial. I'll repeat it again. The mechanism of action of ARNI is that it causes natriuresis or diuresis by decreasing the renin secretion. It causes vasodilation which leads to the decrease in the blood pressure and increase endothelial permeability. It decreases the hypertrophy of the cardiac muscle, it decreases the fibrosis in the heart and it also decreases the sympathetic outflow. So this all help in betterment of the patient. The renal events in patients receiving neprilysin inhibitor, a systemic review and meta-analysis. In this, we concluded that after 17 randomized control trials with sacubitril valsartan, in which 23,569 patients were taken, the neprilysin inhibitor, the ARNI plus ACE inhibitor or ARB are safe with regards to renal endpoints. The sacubitril valsartan, now impact on renal safety. We have found that there is no significant difference in the progression of renal dysfunction with sacubitril valsartan, that is ARNI, as compared with enalapril. So to conclude, the sacubitril valsartan will slow the progression of renal dysfunction and it improves the clinical outcomes even in patients with CKD. So this is the main question which all the clinicians face, that in a patient of chronic kidney disease, that is CKD, whether to start ARNI or not. And in studies, it has been shown that ARNI, that is sacubitril valsartan, will slow the progression of renal dysfunction and impaired clinical outcomes even in patients with CKD. Now coming to the renal effects and associated outcomes during the ARNI inhibition in heart failure. In this study, the inclusion criteria was GFR more than 30 ml per minute and composite of CV death, heart failure hospitalization reduced by 20%, in which the p-value was significant, that is p was less than 0.001. To conclude, compared with enalapril, ARNI, that is sacubitril valsartan, led to a slower rate of decrease in the eGFR and improved cardiovascular outcomes even in patients with chronic kidney disease. So again, one more study which shows that the use of ARNI as compared to enalapril alone will slow down the decrease in the GFR and it improves the cardiovascular outcomes even in patients with chronic kidney disease. Now coming to the association between the change in the renal function following transition to ARNI, that is sacubitril valsartan, and subsequent CV outcomes and its treatment benefits. Post initiation, reductions in eGFR are a commonly cited reason for the premature discontinuation of beneficial heart failure therapies, which is not good for the patient. However, in both the trials, that is the Paradigm HF trial and the Paragon HF, treatment benefits of ARNI were maintained irrespective of the occurrence of eGFR decline, which was reversible in most patients. So this is important. Again, moderate eGFR decline when transitioning from RAS inhibitor to sacubitril valsartan is not consistently associated with adverse outcomes, and its long-term benefits retained in heart failure across a broad range of eGFR declines. So what is the take-home message? The take-home message is that the renoprotective long-term benefits of ARNI, that is sacubitril valsartan, need to be communicated in scientific communication in heart failure and CKD patient profile. Now coming to the management principle in heart failure with hyperkalemia. In patients on a RAS inhibition, the intercurrent illness commonly causes acute kidney injury, that is AKI, but there is no evidence that stopping the RAS inhibitor is beneficial. If a patient with HFrEF, that is heart failure with reduced ejection fraction, develops hyperkalemia, that is potassium is more than equal to 5.5, then monitor closely, medication review, and consider suspending the RAS inhibition. To potassium more than 6, then the RAS inhibition should be stopped. Now, considerations when managing a patient with heart failure who develop hyperkalemia. These are the checkpoints we need to do. First, check for the overdiuresis hypovolemia. Non-selective beta blockers can increase the potassium. Review the indications, prognostic benefit in heart failure with reduced ejection fraction, but not heart failure with preserved ejection fraction. Try to continue in heart failure with reduced ejection fraction, that is EF less than 30. We have to stop the potassium supplements, stop amiloride and trimethoprim, stop NSAID, that is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, stop trimethoprim, stop sodium substitutes, check for digoxin toxicity, and provide low potassium diet advice. Now, mortality and reduced kidney function in heart failure with preserved ejection fraction, mid-range ejection fraction, and reduced ejection fraction. So this is what is shown as 3 different categories. First is the heart failure with preserved ejection fraction, that is those who have EF more than equal to 50%. Second is the heart failure with mid-range ejection fraction, that is EF between 40 to 49%. And third is the heart failure with reduced ejection fraction, that is EF less than 40%. So we can see the mortality and morbidity will increase with decrease in the EF and in the eGFR. Now, the expert consensus document on the management of hyperkalemia in patients with cardiovascular disease treated with renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system inhibitors, which was coordinated by the working group on cardiovascular pharmacotherapy of the European Society of Cardiology. Since RAS inhibition therapy reduces mortality and morbidity in patients with cardiovascular disease but can increase potassium levels, therapies aimed at lowering potassium levels and enabling patients to continue RAS inhibitor therapy should be considered. So this is important, that is therapies aimed to lower the potassium levels and enabling patients to continue RAS inhibition should be considered. Now coming to the another group, this is the SGLT2 inhibitors, mainly the dapagliflozin as we are using it in and out. So the benefits of SGLT2 inhibitors in heart failure and the cardiorenal syndrome, it can be summarized as it leads to the reduction in the left ventricular remodeling, it causes improvement of systolic and diastolic myocardial function, it leads to vasoprotective effects, it leads to the reduction of HbA1c and glucotoxicity, it increase of the ketogenesis and lose of body weight, it causes reduction of tubular stress and increase of erythropoietin and hematocrit, it causes reduction of albuminuria, and it causes reduction of preload and afterload. So as we can see, it has got a multi modes of action for cardioprotection, that is the SGLT2 inhibitors, drugs like dapagliflozin have got a spectrum of effects on the patients having heart failure and chronic kidney disease, that is the cardiorenal syndrome. Now the SGLT2 inhibitors have not only completed whole circle of CV continuum, but also across the cardiorenal continuum. So this is what we need to understand, that the SGLT2 inhibitors will benefit not only those who are having heart failure with reduced ejection fraction, mid-range or preserved ejection fraction, but they will also help those patients who are having heart failure and chronic kidney disease, that is the cardiorenal syndrome. Now coming to the DAPA CKD trial, the randomized double-blind placebo-controlled multi-center trial it was done in 386 cities in 21 countries, and we found out that among patients with chronic kidney disease, the risk of composite kidney or cardiovascular outcomes or death was significantly lower with dapagliflozin than with placebo. So we have found that patients with CKD, the DAPA, that is the SGLT2 inhibitors, was better as compared to the placebo. Now effect of DAPA on kidney and cardiovascular outcomes by the baseline, that is the KDIGO risk categories, a post hoc analysis of the DAPA CKD trial. The DAPA, that is the dapagliflozin, has showed a consistent benefit on kidney and cardiovascular outcomes across the KDIGO risk categories. Now coming to the next drug, that is the Finrenone. The Fidelio DKD trial in 5674 patients with type 2 diabetes and CKD, it was the comparison of the Finrenone along with placebo. The primary composite outpoints were the kidney failure with more than 40% decrease in the eGFR over 4-week period or death from renal causes, and secondary composite outcomes were death from cardiovascular cause or hospitalization for any cause. So in patients with CKD and type 2 diabetes, the treatment with Finrenone resulted in lower risk of CKD progression and cardiovascular effects than placebo. So this is a new point, a new drug. We are talking about the Finrenone. This Finrenone in patients with CKD and type 2 diabetes, treatment with Finrenone resulted in lower risk of CKD progression and cardiovascular events as compared to the placebo. Now coming to the take-home message of this lecture, the combination of heart failure and CKD, that is the chronic kidney disease, is very common, and both will lead to the worsening of each other. That is, the heart failure will worsen the CKD and the CKD will worsen the heart failure. So combinedly they have been called as the cardiorenal syndrome. So once the patient develops the cardiorenal syndrome, he will have a worse prognosis. So it is very important to recognize them early and to start the treatment as early as possible. If the GFR is more than 30, then the treatment is according to the guidelines, whereas if the GFR is less than 30, then there will be a collaboration between the cardiologist and nephrologist for the best possible outcome of the patients. With new potassium binders, even in GFR less than 30 can be tried. The trajectory of CKD can be slowed down by RAS inhibition, ARNI and SGLT2 inhibitor treatment. The CKD detection and treatment will save the heart. So the cardiorenal continuum, heart failure and CKD should never be treated alone because there is a close connect between the heart failure and CKD. The cardiorenal continuum should be treated as a whole. Thank you.